Welcome to Pen Tool Photoshop. In this tutorial, I'll be using the pen tool to cut around this object and then save the path as a clipping path. Because it's a hard edge, I don't need it to be a layer mask with a soft edge. So it's a good example for you to practice on because there's a lot of curves. Curves is where you can see whether someone's good at cutting out or not because it really shows up some of the flaws with your path handling. So I'll go through this process and then I'll explain as I go. So I should say it's a good habit to click on this and create a path straight away. So I'm using the pathing formula that I've explained in earlier tutorials. And you can see I've left a gap here. So when I click, there's a gap there, I click, fill in the gap. You can see there's a slight gap. Click, fill in the gap. Use the Alt key, change direction. So I'm going to have a gap here. You can see the gap between the rubber band. So this gap here, between the rubber band and the edge of the line. So I put a point here. So knowing that if I put a point like there, it's going to pop out in the wrong direction. So I've got to put a point, there's a bit of a gap here, so I have to put a point here. You can see I filled in that gap there. Use the Option key, put a point there. So I'll just do it a little bit quicker. You can see where I've placed the line is just inside. I don't want to use really long control handles, so see there it starts to get a bit long. If I use a really long, if I put the point down here, okay, yeah, it works, but what's going to happen is it's going to get harder and harder for me to see how it's pushing out here. See how it gets, and it's pushing out there. That's why it gets a lot harder to path. So you don't want to have long control handles like this. Just keep them short, lots of different points. So you put the anchor up here and position the image, the anchor visually on the top of the screen. Then work your way down. So if you follow the pathing formula, you'll have no problems at all. It is a bit difficult at first. Sometimes people put the control handles like this. They can't really get a good flow of how to move these control handles around. It's just practice. It literally is going undo, putting another one in, undo, until you get the right position and position these control handles. That gap there and that gap there the same. That's all the practice is. Once you've got that bit down and you understand how that works, it is literally like riding a bike. And it's the hardest part of pathing. It's the bit that's the reason why a lot of people don't path very well, because it's just to get over that little hurdle can be quite difficult for some people, or they just don't commit the time to practice. You can see I don't need to go back and fix up any of these paths. I get it right the first time. Okay, maybe that line's a bit in, and so that's where I put a point, just drag it in. But very rarely would I need to go back and fix it. Depends how fast I'm trying to go. But as you can see, if you go faster, you start to make mistakes. So I wasn't going to put a point here. It starts to get a bit too hard to manage. Just put as many points as you need. As I've said earlier, don't worry about how many points you put down. It's completely irrelevant. You should only ever have to change direction. Use the Alt key or Option key when you actually get to a point that changes direction. I shouldn't need to use it here. I need to use it here where it changes direction. I would never use it like here. I wouldn't put a point there and then change direction like that. You're going to get this sort of shape. Right, so that's quite obvious, but even if you have little ones like this, it will be noticeable. So if you're working on premium for a premium client, or you're doing something that's really important, or if it's for a poster, or maybe you're doing it for a logo, you can't have little points like that. And to be honest, in the long run, it's actually a bit slower. So you can see here I've overstretched with the control handle. It's a bit long. This is a good one for using the Alt Option shortcut. See the gap there between the circle and the line? Gap between the circle, control handle and the line. That is the trick to being fast at this process. So I've closed that path off because I want to get this inside bit here. Don't leave these bits right to the end, because it does sometimes become a bit hard to work out where all the bits were that you came across as you're pathing around the outside. It's just better to get them done as you come up to them. So even this one here. So you know you put a point here and you've got to come back to that point. So I don't want to be right on the edge there because I'll end up with a halo around this image. Especially being a clipping path, it's going to be a really sharp edge. The objective is to path this in one go and not have to come back and fix your path up. You just want it to be right first time. And then I could command click over that path to select it again, click on that point. So as long as this setting, there's exclude overlapping shapes, I know that these inside bits here will cut out. Always check that that's on that setting there. If these inside bits don't cut out for whatever reason, it's because that setting has changed. Another inside bit. Command click to get off that path. So my hand hovers over the Alt option and Command key. That's where my thumb is. I'm left-handed, so I use the mouse with my right hand. And I have my left thumb shifts between the spacebar, the Command key, and the Option key. Shifts between those three. So it's literally left mouse click and drag. And my left hand is on the shortcuts. So you don't need to use a Wacom for this. In fact, I personally prefer a mouse. It's obviously an object like this could have been wanded with a magic wand, or you're making a selection, but you might want this path for a logo, you might want it to bring into Illustrator, you might want to make an SVG file. There's any number of reasons why you might want to have a path. You would never convert a selection to a path. That's when you would end up with too many points, you might have rip errors, things like that. So I go into more details about that on pentoolphotoshop.com and other information about pathing and the pen tool and paths. Okay, so that's the whole entire object cut out. I'll just visually look around a few different parts to make sure it's cut out. So there's a path over there. Deselect it. So now I want to check the path. Before I make it a clipping path, I can Command and then click on the path. Makes it a selection. And I press Q for the quick mask. This was covered earlier in an earlier tutorial. I can zoom in and I can just kind of hover around and check the quality of the cutout. This is how I would check it. Command I to invert. So what I'm doing is inverting the quick mask down here. So I can see what bits I've cut off. I can see if there's anything funny going on. I can make sure that I've cut out the inside bits here. I can check the curve. So you can see maybe this line here. See it kind of juts in a bit. So I'd sort of make a note of that. That can't really be fixed. Kind of maybe can come in a little bit. Just depends. I mean, something like this might be quite small anyway. So that's probably ultra precision. You would probably do a little bit less precision than that. So once you're happy and look like a pretty good cutout, press Q, Command D, deselect the selection. So otherwise I would have left the selection and clicked on here and add a mask. So that would have added a mask like that. In my case, I just want to click on the path, go up to here, choose clipping path, select path 1, leave the flatness blank. If you want to know more about flatness, just visit pentoolphotoshop.com and talk about flatness. Leave that, so select path 1, hit OK. Now the text goes slightly bolded. You can see it's not bolded, now it's bolded. That's the clipping path, that's just a regular path. So when it's bolded, that will now be cut out. I can say this is a JPEG file, doesn't matter what your settings are, this will be cut out. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.